San Diego State got smoked at UNLV. They're now 3-7. There is no bowl game. The aura of Rocky Long, Brady Hoke, boy, that seems like it's a long time ago. It's not that far back. They gave up 515 yards in offense. Quarterback Daniel New got pounded through 2 interceptions. I went to the press conference today with Sean Lewis because I go to all these press conferences to ask questions, to get quotes and stuff and for stories and columns for my website. And I just kind of walked in the door and said, we're not going to listen to any more coach speak. We're not going to listen to any more attributes about players buying in, attitude's great. Your ass is 3-7. This is horrible. We're not going to listen to how you need more financial support. There's only 12,775 that showed up for your last home game, which to me is just despicable. I don't want to hear any of that. So at the end of the press briefing, after he had run through his regimen of coach speak, which I can't handle, I said, I want to ask you a question aside from Aztec football. And he said, okay. I said, let's talk about the state of college football, Power 5, the group of 4 that's left. Or it's actually Power 4, the group of 5. I said, what's your take on the state of college football, the NIL, and transfer portal, which I happen to think has been very detrimental to the game? So he started to give me a generic answer. So he looked at me, he finished. I said, Sean, if you were king, what would you change? If you could make the decision, what would you change? And he said, do you have enough time for this? I said, yeah, I got all day. And he expounded. It was the best thing I've ever heard from him since the day he got hired. I've been very impressed with him, but I'm tired of coach speak and, we're not handing out trophies for just showing up at a game. He went out and he just flat out said, if I were king, if you're taking my players in the transfer portal after I invested and taught these players and created this talent, the NCAA should compensate San Diego State for every player that's taken by a Power 4 conference school. We get a stipend. And I'd never heard that from anybody, that you're going to take the big guy from my team. You got to pay us a fee to take the big guy because we invested and believed and coached that guy up. Fascinating statement. And I'll tell you what, I bet there's a hell of a lot of coaches that would think that way. And then the other thing was the transfer portal. And I just readdressed it. You're the king. You had 42 players go into the transfer portal last year once you took this Aztec program. If you were king, what would you change about the transfer portal? And his response was, you cover the NFL, you cover baseball, you cover the NBA, you cover hockey. They all have free agency. That's what this has become. They have one window. You have a date. December 1st, free agent window opens. Why can't we have one window transfer portal? You have 15 days to get into the portal, and at the 15th day, the portal closes, and then teams make their choices. He says that has to change. There's too much tampering going on, obviously. Show me the money. Players leave. Players change their mind. Families sell kids to other schools. So it was really interesting. It's the best stuff I've ever heard come out of his mouth. And he talks 1,000 miles an hour. Kind of like he wishes his offense played Aztec fast. But it was really enlightening to actually get him to, quote, open up, step away from coach speak, and talk about compensation. If you're going to take my top wide receiver at San Diego State and he's going to a group of 4 school, there should be a fixed fee for every player we lose to that group. That would make us whole. We could use money then to go get other players. Fascinating there. And then obviously one window, not 2 windows for large periods of time where guys can come in, guys can come out. Interesting. So that's the Aztec story. By the way, the other team in town, we should just talk about this briefly. University of San Diego. Their coach is Brandon Moore in his second year. Last year was just a black cloud because of the hazing issues with players. He was not allowed to talk to the media, which I thought was garbage. University, I think, took a real black eye. They solved the problem with the hazing situation. USD is 7-3 this season.
Hey, right on.
One of the best 1AA defenses in the country. Quarterback Grant Sargent threw for 6 touchdowns this past weekend. They beat Stetson. What I'd really like to see USD do, but it would take a huge financial commitment because they're a non-scholarship program. It's kind of Ivy League academic.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the Pioneer League, but you couldn't name a team in the damn Pioneer League, could you?
No.
University of Dayton, Presbyterian, et cetera, Academia. I'd really like to see USD, because they are 1AA in essence without scholarships. Go to Big Sky Conference.
Yeah.
Play Montana State, which get good players. Now, to do that, you got to fund, I think it's 65 scholarships for football. I don't know how that impacts USD because of Title IX, etc. But they need something because it's a good program. Dale Lindsey, former NFL coach, had been the head coach for a chunk of time and got him in the 1AA playoffs as non-scholarship, and they won games. I'd love to see them be a member of the Big Sky so the community, the student body, they don't go to the games. They can't identify with the University of Dayton or these other people. Let them be 1AA, play Montana State, be in the ratings, be in the playoffs, because 1AA football, or FCS as it's called, they got their own identity. And it's a pretty good program. They put guys in the NFL on a regular basis, but I don't know if USD can financially afford that. USC, new quarterback. Kid transferred in from Vegas, sat for half the season behind Miller Moss, and then Miller Moss was benched because of 9 interceptions and a lot of turnovers. And Juden Mayava, Vegas transfer quarterback, who had a really great freshman year, led them to victory this past weekend. Very impressive start. 3 for 249, couple of 3 touchdowns, did not panic. UCLA, same old. Their 3-game winning streak went by the boards. They got beat. They got beat up at home, which is too bad. Couldn't run the ball. Ethan Garbers played okay, but didn't throw a lot of touchdown passes. So they're sitting there at 4-6 on the season after they kind of got bashed by the University of Washington, which is in rebuild season itself. And they got beat up by the Huskies backup quarterback. So I don't know where we are with UCLA. I know where the AD is, and I don't quite understand this. They just over the weekend gave Martin Jarman, their athletic director, a 3-year contract extension.
Wow.
He's the athletic director who sank a ton of money into Chip Kelly, and we know how all that worked out. We moved them out of the Pac-12 to go to the Big Ten. We're on the outside looking in. Obviously hired Deshaun Foster, who still has great hopes that he and Eric Bieniemy are going to flip this thing. But it's like they play their games and nobody pays attention because they're not a West Coast team anymore. They're playing back there. They gave Martin Jarman a 3-year contract extension. The athletic department deficit, what's the limit on your credit card? The athletic, you ready for this, John?
Yeah.
Their athletic department, Bruins Athletics. Now, it's 21 intercollegiate programs. Yeah. It has to live off what football and basketball drives financially. It's $167 million in debt. The athletic program.
And overall, or just in 1 year?
No,
overall.
Overall.
Yeah.
$167 million. They gave the athletic director a 3-year contract extension after the Chip Kelly fiasco, after the death of the Pac-12 that UCLA played a part in, going to the Big Ten where nobody pays any attention to UCLA. So why would you give them a 3-year contract? I don't understand anything at UCLA.
Well, students and taxpayers are making up the difference on that.
You are, aren't you?
Yeah, we're the ones that are paying. But, UCLA has a big athletic program compared to other universities.
Well, most schools are 17 or 18. They got 21 intercollegiate sports.
Yeah, and like Stanford has a lot too.
Yeah,
right?
21.
Yeah. So, I look at these teams. First of all, San Diego State, yeah, it's a rough go this season. Hopefully, Sean Lewis can have a better year too. But it's interesting that you got him to break out of the mold, and you actually had to have a real conversation. And, we can debate some of those ideas, but I think those are innovative approaches. And I think those could have some upside for San Diego State and a lot of these other schools that are getting rated.
Oh, it's a huge problem. He's fearful of December. I think it's December 3rd. Transfer portal opens. He had 42 go in the portal last year. What's going to happen this year? Of course, Aztec fan doesn't give a crap. Their students don't go to the games. There's 200,000 alumni who don't go to the games. And it galls me because I was a voice of the Aztecs in the Marshall Falk era. We put the games on 690 with the Chargers. They were drawing 48 to 51,000 a game the Falk era. You do remember San Diego State, BYU, San Diego State ties USC, San Diego State, UCLA. Where those people gone? And there's no NFL team here, and nobody's going to the games. Athletic department keeps making mistakes. Built the stadium. Stadium was repositioned in the sun, which is terrible. The prices are outrageous, and nobody's going to the games. How could a quote Division I, we're going to be in the Pac-12, draw 12,775 to a home game?
Just seems like everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong for San Diego State. You know, the timing of the stadium, the move up to LA, the COVID situation, and everything else. I just want to talk about USD for a moment. You're right. They have a legit program there. And are they the only West Coast Conference school that has a football program? They might be.
Could be, because Occidental does not anymore. Cal Poly Pomona does not. Riverside.
Well, none of those are West Coast Conference. I'm talking about
West Coast. Yes.
Yeah, like USF, St. Mary's, Loyola Marymount.
Okay, you're talking
Gonzaga.
West Coast Conference. Yeah, they were all basketball schools.
Right. So I think they're the only one that maybe has a football program. It's interesting to think about like 40 years ago in San Diego, where the Aztecs had a Division I sports program and they weren't very good, or they played, they were good in the 70s, but it was a different level of program. UCSD was Division III. USD was not really on the map much. And now the whole thing is growing up. All of San Diego is growing up. So I love your idea. USD, get them into the big sky. I think it'd be great.
But I don't know how you financially fund it, because you have to give scholarships at 1AA, and scholarships then impact what you're doing with Title IX with all the women's sports at USD. It's a complex financial mosaic, really is.
Yeah, they need to get another big donor in there. Is Ron Fowler still doing it?
Tell you, they and San Diego State football, they need a big cigar.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, big time. Okay, that's what's gone on in college football. You got opinions, feel free to jump on board. What's your reaction to what Sean Lewis told me? Kirk Kenny of the Union Tribune, who does a really cool job with covering the Aztecs, he's going to probably write a story about this. I said, if you use his quotes, you just make sure that he was answering Lee Hacksaw Hamilton's pointed questions at the heated press conference. But Sean stood up there. That's the best I've ever heard him speak about something really important, because they're not giving out any more participation trophies to San Diego State football, and I can't stand coach speak.
One more question on San Diego State. Marquez Cooper is obviously a great back, a great history, got another 1,000-yard season, but why don't we see any of the other running backs?
Because he knows Cooper, and I concur with you. I think he should be developing everybody, and he's not. He's focused on 3 or 4 receivers and the one running back, and the other guys are just kind of drifting in and out occasionally. And so when Cooper exits this year, maybe goes to the Canadian Football League, he's a fine small college football player. They're going to have to develop, but they have 3 or 4 other running backs led by Lucky Sutton. That'll be the future. That future will start after the final game against the Air Force Academy.
But they're probably looking forward to December 3rd, some of those guys, because they're going to want to go in the portal. They said, I couldn't get any playing time.
Yeah, that, or they'll be the next guy.
Okay.
But that's the big issue there. Okay, that's all things NFL football and college football. I'm looking for you to jump into Fans Forum